Hi, in this video I want to make, I want to talk about if you really know the decisions you're making, because we know that they all happen a certain way. We're in the process. We don't even know if we really know our own opinions in many cases. We just choose. We choose instinctively. We choose out of the heat of the moment. We choose viciously. We choose with passion, obviously, in many cases. We choose based on our emotions that we're controlled by. I'd say that we make decisions based on the emotions that we're controlled by, or the circumstances that we're controlled by. We make decisions because we're angry. We make decisions because we're this. We can make decisions all sorts of things, and it's the fact that um, the circumstance of our anger and the circumstance of our existence. The fact that we're angry at this point means we're going to make a decision that's going to change our life and cause us to react a certain way, but it's not really changing anything when all we are is our decisions in many cases. Our reactions are the victims of our circumstance. So it's changing a lot, but it's changing very little because the thing that's changing means very little, and the thing that we expected to change means very little. So we're changing something that doesn't mean much, but changing so much because that's all it is. So we're changing so much about us based on just simple circumstances, but we're created by our circumstance. So we are our circumstance. So we're not really anyone. We're a vessel, we're a body. We can change. We're very malleable. You shave your head, you're bald. You cut off your hand, now you're just a stump. You have a stump hand. You have an arm without a hand. You have a leg. You get your foot chopped off, you're a leg without a foot. You get half your head cut off, you're half a head without the top of your head. You're half a head without the other half of your head. Um, you're all sorts of things. We're changed so easily. And it's just about circumstances that control who we are and how we are. The circumstance of our birth, the circumstance of this, the circumstance that I didn't get burned up in the fire that caused me, the circumstance of this, that, and the other thing. Let me see, make sure I'm not missing anything. And I guess it comes down to, yeah, I was just thinking, I was mentioning excuses too. Do we really have an excuse? Is there really any need for an excuse? Excuses are really just evasions in many cases, so excuses are very pointless other than to get a person that may be responsible away, so in many cases they're detrimental. But really, do we know who we are? We're not really anything. It's a me brain, and me brain only interacts. Me brain, me interacts. There's no I, there's just a me interacting with the world. And I've gone over this before, but it's just me interacting with the environment, and I have an interaction with the environment. Therefore, I'm going to interact a certain way. There's predispositions of my interaction, but that's based on the previous interactions. The circumstances of my genes, and this, that, and the other thing, how I react, based on the very moment of my birth or my existence, um, and all sorts of other things. Yes, they have an effect, but they have an effect like any other effect. They mean so little, but they mean so much because they're the thing that controls everything. But also, they mean so little because there's those everywhere. It's a dime a dozen. It means nothing. They mean so much, but they mean so little at the same time. It's one of those kinds of paradoxes, right? If anyway, if lack of a better description, that's a good description, I guess, of making that distinction. Yeah, we are really malleable. We don't really have a self. Like I mentioned, we're a me brain interacting, reacting to the environment, doing certain things based on our interactions, and our predispositions are based on previous interactions. We were existed by a predisposition of interactions that exist not only based on genes and how we are genetics and all that crap, but based on all this other crap, like how quickly you get angry and all that stuff, and your predispositions of anger, emotions, intellect, and not being controlled by certain things. The predisposition of um, the fact that your mother and father or whatever created you, and that's a circumstance that they wouldn't have created you if this didn't happen or this happened, but things happen a certain way, you exist, and you are in and of yourself a function and a byproduct of the universe that's going to universe its way until it gets somewhere, and you're part of that function now. You're sentience, you're experiencing it. So that's part of the function, and you're now part of the function, but you're part of the whole function of all these interactions. So you're just a piece, you're just a cell moving around in the body. You're not doing much of else. You're just moving around, controlling, creating a function, not serving really in function like the cell in the body. So, the cell's moving in the body, it can do something one way or the other. The only difference is that those cells are part of a sentient being. The difference is the universe isn't sentient. We're controlling we're living in the sentience. interacting with the non-sentients and interactions and sentience, so it's unavoidable. We're reacting like the cells. They're controlling something. They're inside something that's living, and they're not interacting with anything that else is that is sentient. They're living. Cells are living, but they're not sentient. So not only are we interacting with other sentient things, unlike the cell, and unlike the fact that we're not inside something that's sentient, the universe, we have really no function in and of ourselves other than to avoid negatives and to make sure the best is based on our own existence, to make sure the sentient game is smooth as possible. If back will lend better description to describe that. But yes, that's what we're doing. We're part of this game and this function. We're just moving around, having our own little interaction. We're part of the whole, and it takes away from our significance. Like I mentioned, we're like a cell, but we're not in a living thing. We're in a non-living thing. We're not pleasing the universe. But then again, even if you were pleasing the universe, you're just pleasing the universe. If it took pleasing the universe, you're still cannon fodder. You're still just a piece of crap that can be sacrificed. It's not about pleasing anyone. It's about, in and of itself, what value does it have that can serve as a function other than satisfying a negative. And since it's a zero-sum game, based on its very nature and definition of existence, regardless of your understanding or regardless of your acceptance, you know, there's no way to get a something that in and of itself has function or purpose. And because it doesn't exist in this reality, the idea doesn't even exist. It's just an idea that we come up with. We can't think of one because it doesn't exist. And like time travel doesn't exist, but we can't even think of one. Since time travel doesn't even exist, if we can't think of an innate positive other than satisfying our desires or avoiding negatives outright, then it's ultimately nothingness. It doesn't mean anything. It doesn't exist as an idea even. It just exists as a concept that can exist, but it doesn't exist as really anything that we can put our fingers on. It doesn't mean anything. We can just sit there with the hopes and dreams, but the hopes and dreams don't mean anything because you're just sitting there with your hopes and dreams, twiddling your thumbs and, sticking your finger up your ass. You're not doing anything. You're picking your nose, picking your ass, and shoving it up your nose and sniffing it. You're not doing anything. Oh, I sniffed my ass. Okay, really lovely. That really served a big and useful function. You got some dingleberries on your finger now? Yeah, really useful. You're sniffing shit. But really, you're just imagining it because it's really not there. It's all very just projected bull crap anyway. Unfortunately, I'm just telling it like it is. Unfortunately, it's the truth, so I can use that as a snarky way of describing it. It's the fucking truth. The end. So what else do I have to say? Yeah, so, I mean, we're all part of the function of the universe. We're just pieces moving around. Not changing much because what we're changing we're a part of, and it doesn't really mean anything to begin with except the sentient part. But whatever change we feel like we're having, it doesn't mean anything in the end anyway because it's going to end. But the end's what gives it the context of its purpose. And the end is going to evaporate us, and it's going to mean nothing anyway. So, and if we did keep on going, it would mean nothing because it just kept going. It wouldn't mean anything then. So it doesn't mean anything. It's one of those, it's a lose-lose. Everything you look at, every dichotomy when you want to look at when it comes to existence, it's lose-lose unless you find the middle ground and find acceptance in death. You realize, I got to get context. Let's do as much as I can. Let's let this game roll out in whatever way it can, but let's make sure it rolls out in the most efficient way possible until we reach an end. And that's the middle ground. That's the only ground. And it comes from us, and because that's the only place it can come from, because we're the only thing giving the value in this universe and accepting the value in this universe. We're giving and receiving, and it comes to us when it comes to changing that fact or changing that reality or trying to alter it or set it off course or setting off on a different course. It's up to us because they're the ones giving and receiving the value. And we're the ones that are giving the meaning and all that stuff. That's the thing where it comes from. It comes from us, and they're the ones that have to make the decisions, and it has to be coming up to us. We're the victims, but we also have to make the decisions because we're the ones that it's coming from and going to. So that's the unfortunate, insidious nature of fact of existence. It comes down to us. We can expect it to eventually. We can expect the wind to eventually blow, but we can only do so much to accept it and expect it to happen. So sometimes you just have to take it into our own hands, I guess. Our own hands. So, yeah, let me see if there's anything else I missed. Do you really know if you do or do not want something, something will happen anyway. Are there really excuses? Like, I don't want to, but will. Yeah. You don't want to, but sometimes you just are going to. That's the case. And I guess that's an excuse. And something's going to eventually happen. You can say you don't want to, but sometimes it eventually happens anyway. I guess that's a point I wanted to make. So yeah, sometimes they eventually they happen. I don't want to, but I will anyway, either because of an obligation you may have or the facts of reality push knock down your door, push their the weight on you, and now you have an obligation, and now you're forced into that situation. Happen anyway, yes. Yeah. So something, do not want something. Something will happen anyway. Are they really excuses? Yeah. Yeah. So are they really excuses? I can't remember exactly. I need to write better notes. But are they really excuses? What's really an excuse? The fact that you have that and they're going to happen anyway. Is that really an excuse? I don't want to, but still will. I don't know where I was going with that. But anyway, I think I made something out of this video as best I could. Anyway, if I remember, I can just mention it somewhere else. So thank you. And if I have anything else to mention on this subject, I'll mention it in another video. So thank you, and until next time, bye.